Welcome back, dear students, to part 2 of lesson number 3, The Earth and its Living World. In the previous part, we studied about the various spheres of the Earth, that is, the lithosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere, and the living things in all these three spheres combine to form the biosphere. We also dealt with lithosphere and hydrosphere. We seen what is surface water and groundwater. Let's study further about the atmosphere. I want all of you all to have your textbooks open, children. Page number 14, the atmosphere. So let's begin. The envelope of air around the earth is called the atmosphere. As we go higher from the surface of the earth, the air in the atmosphere becomes rarer, becomes less. The air consists of a mixture of gases, namely nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor, and carbon dioxide. There are some other gases too in the air in very small quantities. So, when we look around, the atmosphere is nothing but the air that surrounds the earth. Alright, and this air has a lot of mixture of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, water vapor, and carbon dioxide. Apart from that, there are other gases too, but they are only in small quantities. The layers of the atmosphere are named as the troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, ionosphere, and exosphere. Okay, children, there's a picture given to you in your textbooks. Okay, so as you go higher and higher from the earth's surface, we see that there are layers of atmosphere starting from troposphere, then we have stratosphere, then is mesosphere, then you have the ionosphere and exosphere. Okay, the closest one to the earth's surface is the troposphere. The layer that extends from the earth's surface to a height of about 13 kilometers is called the troposphere. The condition in the troposphere change continuously. They affect the living world to a great extent because it is so close to the earth's surface. Okay, the troposphere is constantly changing. Okay, and it affects the people that are staying on the earth, the living world. The surface of the earth gets heated due to the heat it receives from the sun. You know, children, that we get light and heat from the sun. So, what happens is because of the sun's heat, the air in the atmosphere gets heated up, and the air that is closest to the earth's surface is the hottest. As we go higher in the troposphere, it becomes cooler. So as you go higher and higher in the atmosphere, we notice that the air becomes cooler and cooler. That's why many people like to go to hill stations also. Why? Because it is at a higher level than the ground level, and because of that the air over there is much more cooler. Almost all the water vapor in the atmosphere is contained in the troposphere. We know that water vapor is the gaseous form of water. Okay, so it is present in the atmosphere and it also is part of the troposphere. That is why all weather related phenomena such as formation of clouds, rain, fog, wind, and storms take place in the troposphere. I've given you small little images there, children. So, whatever happens in the atmosphere, okay, like formation of clouds, you can see rain, fog, winds that blow, as well as storms, they all take place within the troposphere. The air on high mountains, okay, what happens over there? it is rarer than the air near the earth's surface. I've told you, if it is at a height, then what happens to the air? It becomes lesser and lesser and gets cooler and cooler. Okay. Airplanes fly in the higher parts of the troposphere. There, the air is very rare. Therefore, arrangements have to be made to ensure that passengers get enough air for breathing. So, if you have traveled by an aeroplane, you might have noticed, children, that as soon as the air levels drop, you have oxygen masks. Have you heard of that? So that is to make sure that the passengers have enough oxygen, because at that height, when the aeroplane is flying high, there is very less air. It becomes rare over there. Okay, so to make sure that passengers have enough air for breathing, you have these oxygen masks. Beyond the troposphere, up to a height of about 50 kilometers from the Earth, is the layer called the stratosphere. In the lower part of the stratosphere, there is a layer of gas called ozone. You all might have heard about the ozone layer, children. It is very important for us, because what does the ozone layer do? Ultraviolet rays that are coming from the sun are harmful for living things. The sun gives out rays which are known as ultraviolet rays, UV rays, which are very harmful for people. If those rays touch our skin, it is possible that people can get various diseases like skin cancer, or they could get big boils on their skin, or some people have allergy to the sun, the heat from the sun, they get rash. So the ozone layer is like a protective layer for the earth. What does it do? It absorbs these UV rays and protects the living world from those rays. It reflects it back, it throws it back. Okay, now you might have heard about the global warming that is taking place. Because of that, because of all the smoke and the various activities of man, what is happening to the ozone layer? It is slowly being reduced, depleted, and there are big holes that are forming in the ozone layer. Because of that, the UV rays can easily reach the earth. So we have to make sure, children, that we protect this ozone layer so that we can be protected from the harmful rays of the sun. Okay, now there are two questions asked over here for you. In which layer of the atmosphere do we see the rainbow? I want all of you all to think and tell me, what layer or which layer in the atmosphere do we see the rainbow? Also, mountaineers carry oxygen in cylinders when they climb mountains that are more than 5,000 meters high. What could be the reason for that? They are climbing so high up in the sky, yes or no, into the mountains. And over there, what happens to the air? So, why would they need to carry oxygen cylinders? Think about it, children. Okay, now we come to a new topic, that is, how does it rain? So, water on the earth evaporates continuously due to the heat of the sun. Water that has percolated, that means entered into the soil, also evaporates due to the heat and enters the atmosphere. As water vapor is lighter than air, it rises high up into the atmosphere. As it goes higher, it cools and condenses, forming very fine droplets of water. The droplets are so small and light that they float in the atmosphere, forming clouds. These small droplets join together and form bigger droplets, which are heavy. They cannot float. Such drops of water fall down on the earth in the form of rain. So, very important, children, for you all to understand what is a water cycle. Now, what do you mean by evaporating? That means because of the rays of the sun or the heat, what happens to water? It begins to evaporate. It becomes into gaseous state of water. Okay, like a gas. Water percolated in the soil also evaporates. Remember when I told you that when it rains, water is absorbed by the soil because of the heat of the sun, that too is evaporated and it enters into the atmosphere. As it goes higher, it cools and condenses, forming fine droplets of water. I told you, as you go higher and higher in the atmosphere, the air gets cooler and cooler. And what happens when the gaseous state of water becomes cooler? It forms droplets of water. These droplets are very small and light and they float in the atmosphere. But as they come together, they start forming clouds. All these small droplets, then they start coming together and form bigger droplets. They cannot float because they are heavy now, and therefore when they come together they cannot float, they start falling down because of gravity. And that is how, children, we get rain. I hope you can see, as the water vapor goes up it forms clouds and it comes down. Okay, it can come down in the form of rain. And in cold regions what happens? You cannot have water because it's so cold, the water freezes, and therefore it comes down in the form of snow. Okay. This rainwater flows into rills, streams, rivers, and finally into the sea. Ice in the snow covered regions also melts due to the heat of the sun to finally flow into rivers. Okay, these processes of evaporation, where water turns into a gas, condensation. What do you mean by condensation, children? The process of water vapor turning into water, okay, from a gas state into a liquid state, and rainfall go on in a continuous cycle. This is known as the water cycle in nature. Now I have this very interesting video for you all to watch. Please pay attention.
Let's look at the science of rain and how raindrops form. First, we'll need the sun. When the sun shines on water on the Earth's surface, the heat of the sun warms the water, turning it into an invisible gas called water vapor. This process, the changing of water into a gas, is called evaporation. Because gases are lighter than liquids, water vapor rises up into the sky. And the further you move up and away from the Earth's surface, the colder the temperature gets. So in the sky, the water vapor cools and changes back into tiny water droplets. This change is called condensation and is the opposite of evaporation. Clouds are made up of tiny water droplets, so when condensation occurs in the sky, clouds form and grow. Let's take a closer look. When water droplets bump into one another, they stick together and grow in size. They continue to grow until they are too heavy and fall as rain. They even grow as they bump into one another on their journey from the cloud to the ground. And every single raindrop that reaches the ground is made up of 1 million of the original tiny water droplets. Raindrops fall on the ground surface where the sun can shine on them, and the whole process happens again. This is called the water cycle and keeps water moving from the ground to the sky, providing the water needed for plants, animals, and people to survive. So now you know.
I hope you understood that video, children. Okay, now we move on to a new topic, that is the biosphere. There are innumerable kind of living things on the earth. The various regions of the earth differ in many ways. Some regions are always covered with ice, while others have a hot climate. There are mountains in some places and plains in others. Some places have a lot of rainfall, while others are dry deserts. There are salty seas and oceans, as well as freshwater lakes. The ocean is shallow near the coast, but away from the coastline, the ocean can be several kilometers deep. So, can you see there is so much of variety? Not everywhere it is the same. We see a variety in the living things that inhabit these different regions. The polar bear is seen only in the snowbound polar regions. Zebras are found in Africa, and kangaroos are found only in Australia. These animals are not found in other regions. Elephants and lions are found in regions of hot climate. Plants in all these different regions also show a great variety. This variety is characteristics of those different regions. Many different kinds of plants, animals, and microorganisms are found everywhere on the earth, on land, in water, and in the air. So we see there are different kinds of animals, different kinds of greenery, trees that grow in different regions, and because of that, there is a variety not only on the land but also in water and in the air. Living things exist in the lithosphere, that is land, hydrosphere, that is water, and atmosphere, that is the air. They also interact with these spheres. This living world constitutes the biosphere. So, all the living things in all these spheres consist of the biosphere. Okay, children, with that we come to the end of our lesson. Now, there are few question answers that are given to you. Okay, now from the exercise that is given to you, question number 1, question number 2, question number 6 and question number 7 have to be done by you. Use your imagination and your logic and try to find out the answers to these questions. The other questions I have given you the answers to. Okay, so question number 3, answer the following questions. What are clouds made of? Clouds are made up of very fine water droplets that float in the atmosphere. Next question. What is meant by biosphere? Living things occupy parts of the lithosphere, hydrosphere, as well as the atmosphere. Living things and all the parts they occupy are together called the biosphere. Next question. Make a list of the landforms you see in your surroundings and give a description of any two of them. So here I have given you hills, hillocks, plain, plateaus, mountains, pass, valley, island, seashore. Now, what is a plain? In geography, a plain is a flat sweeping landmass that generally does not change much in elevation. Elevation that it does not go high. It is flat. The ground is flat, not like a mountain. Next, I've given you a seashore. A seashore is an area of sandy, stony, or rocky land that is bordering and in level with the sea. Question number 5. Write a note about the following. I've given you the answers here. First one, evaporation. Evaporation is the process by which water changes from a liquid to a gas or vapor. Water on earth evaporates continuously due to the heat of the sun. Second one, condensation. It is the process of vapor turning into water on cooling. Water which collects as droplets on a cold surface when humid air is in contact with it. Humid air, hot air. It is the opposite of evaporation. You all might have seen condensation, children, when you take out a cold bottle of water from the fridge. What happens? After some time, it comes in contact with a little bit of hot temperature. And what happens on top of the bottle? You see a lot of small little droplets of water that are formed. That is condensation. Next, we come to the water cycle. The process of evaporation, condensation, and rainfall go on in a continuous cycle. This is known as the water cycle in nature. So, these question answers which I have given you, You will have to write in your notebooks. Question number 1, 2, 4, 6 and 7 you have to do on your own. Okay, children? So with this we come to the end of our lesson. Thank you and have a wonderful day, children.